So, it's been 665 days since the accident. It's been a year since you guys came out and made an awesome video for us. It's been 1 month since I was separated from the Army. And when I was separated from the Army, the way that I found out was by an email. That was an auto-generated email. Whenever you receive documents in your iPerms, you get an email that says, hey, you got an email in your iPerms, and it includes this. I didn't even get a phone call from a human being that said, hey, thanks for giving us 16 years of your life or anything like that. But I guess that just is what it is. Also, usually, whenever you get out of the military, they do you usually get some kind of award whenever you get out. And in my case, like I said, I didn't even get a phone call or anything like that, so I definitely didn't get an award. But over my 16 years of service, I was told that I had been put in for the Soldier's Medal twice. Now, criteria to receive a Soldier's Medal is you have to save someone's life while putting your life in danger in the process. So I didn't get put in or they say I got put in twice, and then I never heard anything else about it. And then in this situation, where I tried to save her and, knowing I was going to die, that would have been another reason to get one. But again, I got nothing. And in my dealings with the VA and stuff like that, it's been a joke. I am so grateful for community care because the VA would much rather you just die.
Yeah, I have not had a great experience with medical insurance, disability, any of those things. After about 1.5 years, my disability case was just approved. That in itself was a whole drawn-out process. When you go onto the website for Social Security, it gives you updates on the status of your application. And about 1 year ago, it said that my application was 80% complete. And then a little over 6 months ago, it said it was 90% complete. So I was really excited that stuff seemed to be happening. And then I got something in the mail requesting all of my medical information that I'd already submitted. And I was frustrated and confused why it was just now, why they're asking for information that I had already supplied. And so I called and found out that they had, their exact words were, nobody had been assigned to my case yet, and they were just now opening my application. So after, at that point, almost 1.5 years, they had just began to go through that. I'm really grateful that I had a lawyer working with me that was able to push the paperwork through, because the amount of hoops that they wanted to jump through and paperwork that they needed in a short time frame that wasn't accessible to me, it was just one thing after another. So I'm really grateful that that has finally come through. Insurance in itself has been another challenge. About fall of last year, I went to pick up my prescriptions and was told that it showed my insurance had been terminated. And I pulled up my account online, and it showed that everything was still good. It even had my insurance cards populated for the 2024 year. So I just thought it must have been a mix-up with the pharmacy. I paid out of pocket and didn't think much of it until my next doctor's appointment I went to and found out that it was still showing my insurance had been terminated. Again, it still showed everything active online. I finally got something in the mail about mid-December saying that my insurance had been terminated, and the reason given said no reason given. So I called and then started a whole slew of misinformation, I guess. When I talked to the people on the insurance companies, and they started to tell me that my insurance had been canceled in February, but actually it was January, and that I really hadn't had coverage the whole year, which is why I've been having so many issues with like physical therapy and different ongoing appointments that I had to go to, and all of a sudden they weren't approved anymore. So that was just a nightmare. And finally I've got coverage that started February of this year, even though I was trying to get this solved starting last fall. So the medical side of things is always, it's like a full-time job, just trying to keep up with appointments and then the back end, the paperwork, and getting things approved.
Basically what we're trying to say is taxes and insurance are literally the government holding a gun to your head and making you do something. But everything hasn't been terrible. We got married. We had a ceremony in September, and you guys made a beautiful video of it. We went deer hunting this year. She killed her first deer ever.
She's very proud of.
Yeah. She's in her 30s, and she's never killed a deer in her life. And she killed one at 175 yards, and it was a perfect lung heart lung with a 6.5 Grendel that I built for her like a few months before that. It was awesome.
He's very proud.
I am.
He was very excited about it. But we were able to do that because of Sawtooth Oak Farms, a great organization. They put on these hunts for disabled people, and they actually provided us with a track share last year, which is a tank. It's amazing, and everything they do is amazing. They're great people, and we've been lucky enough to go on 2 deer hunts with them and 1 turkey hunt in the last almost 2 years since we became disabled.
Yeah, Matt and Sarah are awesome people. We got some dogs. Yeah,
we started with one, and he seemed lonely. Yeah. So the day before we were going to go to the shelter and adopt a dog, my brother called us about a stray puppy that needed a home. So we acquired that one. And then a few months later, Cameron found a dog dumped.
She's my baby.
A hound dog. And then a few months later, another hound dog appeared on our property, emaciated and sprayed by a skunk and lonely. And so we have turned into a bit of a dog rescue, which is interesting while not having a fence. We are working on that, but it's been interesting.
Yeah, whenever I found Lady, which is the hound dog, I was at a friend's house, and I went over there. I was lifting weights because I was getting ready for a strongman competition that he was hosting. It's my friend Noel. And on my way home, I just saw this dog on the side of the road, and I had my prosthetic on, so I got out of my van, and I went over to her. I checked her for, broken bones, bleeding, and she was shivering. I mean, it was like 30 degrees out. And I picked her up, and I put her in the van, and I was like, I'm your mom now. So that was how I got Lady. And then, she talked about the dog that had gotten sprayed by a skunk. At first, we were trying to find the owner of that dog so that we could, return the dog to the owner. But I realized that the dog was very malnourished, and not just, it had been out for a couple of days malnourished. And I decided I didn't care who the owner was. So we ended up keeping him and finding him a home.
Yeah. So it's always something happening. Yeah.
And so, he was very hurt. It seemed like he hasn't eaten in a while because you could see his bone.
It was very skinny.
Yeah, his skin was maybe 3 layers. That's it.
Yeah, he was very bony and the sweetest thing. So
he was.
Yeah, we've turned into a bit of a dog rescue, but it's fun. Keeps us busy.
I competed in a strongman competition It was on St. Patty's Day. It was called the Queen City's Strongest Shamrock. It was hosted by my friend Noel. And I took first place for adaptive division. I was unopposed, so I won by default, but a win is a win. I did 320 pounds on the deadlift with my prosthetic on. 18 repetitions in 60 seconds of 165-pound seated log press. And I did a seated Atlas stone to shoulder of 155 pounds for 5 repetitions in 60 seconds.
You picked up real heavy things and put them back down.
I sure did. I got back into shooting competitions and working competitions as a range officer and, things like that. I'm actually match directing 3 matches this year. One of them, actually all 3 of them, are at Sawmill in Lawrence, South Carolina. And they are part of the Quantified Performance Series. Currently, I'm sitting at 3rd place for practical precision, which is the most populated division for quantified performance for the finale. So I'm hoping that I can stay around the top 5 for the finale, but there are some really heavy hitters in practical precision, so we'll see how it turns up at the end of the year. As far as jiu-jitsu goes, because, like I'd said, when I was in the hospital, I had time to think about the things I enjoyed doing that were selfishly for myself and not things that I did for other people that I got gratification from, and that was shooting jiu-jitsu and lifting weights. For jiu-jitsu, I've actually switched schools from the school that I'd been going to for the past 3 or 4 years. I started going to Pura Veda, and I really like it there. It's actually a different lineage of jiu-jitsu. Before I was a Hoist Gracie jiu-jitsu person, and now it's Carlos Machado. And I am on track for the promotion ceremony on May the 4th to get my blue belt, finally. After 6.5 years, I will finally get my blue belt. The longest break that I've taken in jiu-jitsu for the 6.5 years that I've done it is 8 months. And that was because I got my leg ripped off. So I'm pretty excited to finally be getting a blue belt. To put something in perspective, a lot of people who get their black belt receive it in 10 to 15 years. And I'm just now getting the first belt in progression for jiu-jitsu. So I feel like I might have been overlooked a little bit, and that's partially why I left the school that I was at. But, life goes on.
So, on top of all of the hoops and challenges that come with becoming newly disabled, a few months, actually, what?
It was a month and a half, I think, after we got out of the hospital.
Yeah, so about a month after we got out of the hospital, my dad passed away unexpectedly. Sorry. Yeah, so about a month after we got out of the hospital, my dad passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. He didn't have a will or anything in place, so I became the representative of his estate. And that was a whole long, year-plus long process of paperwork and going to the court, having things notarized and, everything that comes with that. The house that I was living in at the time of the accident, I was renting from my father. And so my brother and I have actually inherited the house, which is great. But it's almost a double-edged sword because now we are needing to buy my brother out of his half of our inheritance of the house. And so that adds, of course, mortgage and new expenses. And my dad, bless him, was a man who did everything about 90% of the way when it came to the construction of this house. So we're so blessed to have it and to have somewhere to come home that they made wheelchair accessible for us while we were still in the hospital. But it has come with many unfinished projects, some of which we've figured out how to do ourselves, some of which we need some help with, so that, with any kind of home ownership is always an ongoing project. There's always something to be done. But yeah, that was a hard hit. I feel like compared to losing a leg and everything that has changed with my life, losing my dad was worse. So, but we're really grateful that we had this house. While we were in the hospital, our community pulled together our families, and they were able to get a ramp put in for us, change the bathroom a little bit so it's more wheelchair accessible. It's not perfect, but we're so grateful to have something that we can actually live a normal life in and be able to get around and live independently. Do you want to say something?
So I miss my grandpa too, and so we did we called him Grandpa Bear because he a few weeks ago we went to the zoo, and my mom's favorite was the bear because it stood for him, and Grandpa loved making walking sticks, and he made me one, and mine was the only one with color, and he signed it with his own little bear paw.
Yeah, losing him was a hard hit. Not just because obviously losing a parent sucks, but he was definitely our main person. He would he'd go to the grocery store with us. He was Harper's number one babysitter. The person I called when my car broke down. Things like that. So one of the hardest parts about that is when I got the call that he passed away, and I went right to his house. I broke my knee in the accident, and I was unable to be weight bearing at all for the first few months. So I got to his house, which is not wheelchair accessible, and I wasn't able to go inside to actually see him. I had to wait for them to, bring him out. So, regaining mobility has been a big thing, not just because, it's a good goal for us to have and we want to be independent, but, to be able to get into places. And there are things you don't think about. There are things that you don't necessarily realize aren't accessible to disabled people until you're disabled and you go out in the world.
I've tried to do my best to pick up as much of that, the hole that, he left behind as I can, as a crippled person myself. So, whenever her car is broke down, I try to be the one who, fixes it and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have ever worked on a car on one leg, but it's not easy. Also, things like, cutting the grass. That was, one of those things that was a challenge in itself because I can't use a traditional tractor-style riding lawnmower. Something most people don't think about, but you have to use your left foot for the clutch brake on one of those. So I had to buy a zero-turn lawnmower to cut our grass because that's all hand controls. Also, if a handicap spot says van, handicap, parking, whatever, let the fucking vans park there. I keep seeing cars in those parking spots. I usually run into them with my wheelchair so they get scratches and dents in them, but still, they're for vans. It says van. I know reading is hard.
It's one of those things, I honestly didn't pay much attention to that stuff before I was disabled either. And I think most of it comes from people just not knowing. But yeah, for my van specifically, I have a side ramp that I can get in and out of with my wheelchair. So I have to have that loading zone available, and it's got to be big enough to put the ramp down. In most cases, it's barely big enough to get the ramp down, much less than get off of it. So it's been a learning experience, constantly going out places and finding that even though they say they're wheelchair available or handicap available parking spaces, they're not accessible. And sometimes you just got to park and hope that nobody parks too close to you. I have definitely left some Post-it notes on people's windshields being like, please don't do this. You've trapped me.
She's nicer about it than I am.
Yeah. But yeah, we try to bring awareness to that kind of stuff when we see it and share little videos about it. Because like I said, I feel like most of the stuff comes from ignorance, not necessarily people trying to be hateful. Though we've had our share of those as well. So yeah.
Her videos are called What You Don't Do in a Handicap Spot. My videos would be called Crime.
Different approaches.
So, court. I actually have a court date. We did the mediation and that stuff or whatever. I have court on May the 6th, but it's probably not for what you think it is. It's not a violent crime or anything like that. It's for the case. On May 6th, I'm supposed to go to court and say that I will not pursue any further legal action against the person who did this to us. Because she was the real victim in this whole thing, and she needs to be protected legally from having any responsibilities for her actions.
Yeah, so we actually met the people that were following behind the girl who hit us and saw the entire accident happen. They said that she had been on her phone. They could visibly see it through, the back, her back window, that they were beeping at her because she kept swerving and almost hitting other people as well.
Somebody on a bicycle.
I think this is someone walking, another car, and then watched her hit us, and they're the ones who called 911. And they said that, she her brake lights didn't even light up until she had gone through us. And Iris, the girl who saw this, said that she went up and, to check on her. And she was like, what happened? And she was like, well, you hit a motorcycle. So she didn't even realize what she had done because, she wasn't paying attention.
She was looking at her phone.
But apparently they're trying to say that there was a recall on her tire and the tire blew, and that's why she hit us. Which, again, had eyewitnesses there that saw this whole thing, but they haven't been asked to come in and give their account or anything.
Well, it even said in the police report that she was distracted because she admitted it, on the scene.
But she's never reached out to us. And as far as we know, there's been no repercussions on her end. So,
our legal system is a joke.
All the systems are a joke.
Yeah, pretty much anything that the government puts in place is trash. I have a friend, he was actually the best man at our wedding, who's going through a really shitty custody battle because he's dealing with some really crooked judges and attorneys and stuff like that. And he even has proof of all this stuff. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter what you can prove in a court of law. It matters who has the money.
And it's not us.
Definitely not us. We do not have money.
Well, money was.
So, before the accident, my mom used to, whenever one day when I was sick at Daddy's, she sent me some pajamas and a new stuffy. And now I sleep with that stuffy every night. And so now, I'm the one who takes care of her when she's sick. Like one time she went to a seafood restaurant and they had bad food and she had gotten throw up stuff. And so
Yeah, Harper's done a great job taking care of
and I gave her a little tiny puppy that she named Hamburger for Valentine's Day.
Harper's been really great about wanting to help out and doing, chores that she didn't necessarily do before. Like she's been helping weed the garden. One of the biggest, I guess, symptoms of the accident that I deal with now is the phantom pains. It's by far the worst chronic pain that I've ever experienced. And there are days where it's so debilitating that I'm just in bed in agony. And so Harper is always great about like making a little get well card and coming in and tucking me into bed and making sure that I'm doing okay.
I even get you trained.
I've being able to be, I guess, a stay-at-home mom full-time now. It is not something that I take for granted. Harper, this past winter, had her first music program at school, and we got to go to that. And
it's called the Big Chill. And it was like, we practiced a lot. Like, we practiced for like 5 months before it. And then I just had a lot of fun doing it. And I had a lot of fun seeing that it wasn't just Mommy, it was Cameron and Cameron's family, and that just made me feel very special.
Yeah, for me, being able to go to her music program with her was a big deal. And I just had a moment where I was sitting there watching, her whole class. They all did a great job. And it just hit me, that I was almost not here for this. That, don't take it for granted. It's a big deal to be able to still be here for the little things and to be a mom and to, still have time with my family and loved ones.
I've been very fortunate in that with the shooting community, with, weightlifting, with just, networking that I've done over the years. Before the accident, I was able to meet some incredible people, and every match I go to, I see people who were like, hey man, I saw your story and you're an inspiration and this and that and all this other stuff, and it really feels good to me to hear that, kind of stuff. One of the things that I don't like to hear necessarily is man, I don't know how you do it, I would have killed myself. I hear that all the time, and I think it's one of those things where people just don't know what to say and they choose to say something anyway, and they don't really think about the words that they're putting out there. I've had, being a service member for as long as I have and stuff like that, I've met a lot of people. I've had a lot of friends kill themselves and stuff like that. And, whenever somebody says, if I was in your situation, I would have killed myself, I'm like, wow, man, thanks. That makes me feel awesome.
Yeah. Again, people don't necessarily know what to say, and it's great when people want to say that you've been so brave and that you're so inspiring, but at the same time, we didn't choose to do this. It's not like we said, I want to be brave, take my leg off, and so you have to put on a brave face. You have to stay positive and keep moving forward. There's just not another option, but that doesn't mean that there aren't really hard days and really hard moments where, you just stop and like sit and think like, this is really it. This is the rest of my life. I am permanently disabled. And so when people say things like that, I feel like they don't think about the weight of what they're saying or what we're actually going through. So it's all well and good to be, to be positive and upbeat about things, but that doesn't mean that it's still not completely challenging.
I'm going to disagree with her on this. we did not choose to be in this situation, obviously. Who would choose that? A psychopath. But I think we did choose to be brave because, at the time of the accident, I chose to risk my life to save her. That was bravery. And now, instead of us staying locked up inside of our houses and watching TV and never going out in the public and, constantly asking people to do everything for us and stuff like that, we don't. We try to do everything that we can independently. And I think that there is a level of bravery attached to that. And I don't think I'm being cocky in saying that or
I can agree.
I think it's just being self-aware.
I can agree with that. We definitely, we've had people that are, want to help, love to help, and get frustrated with us for not asking for help as much, because we definitely, we try, if there's a way for us to do it, we're going to figure it out, even if it's not necessarily recommended. We have absolutely taken our wheelchairs basically off-roading, going to corn mazes and the Renaissance Festival and
oh yeah, that was dope.
Whatever other things,
my wheelchair died at the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah, it has not been without complications. We've had some technical difficulties with our chairs as well, but we've tried to still go and do the same kind of things that we used to do within reason. But yeah, we try to be as independent as possible and figure it out, even if it's not necessarily the recommended way of doing things.
We figure things out, we do it ourselves, or knowing that we can do it ourselves. I will still let people help me because somebody put it into a perspective that I didn't see it from. If somebody wants to help me, I've always had a hard time with accepting help, period. But someone explained to me that I'm giving someone else a chance to be a hero. I'm giving somebody else a chance to get some sense of gratification in helping, this crippled person with the door, or something like that. So if you opening a door for me makes you feel good, I'm going to let you open that door for me. I'm not going to go, I can do it myself, because that's rude.
I would say I get a lot of offers of people at the grocery store to help me with my groceries, and most of the time I'm like, I got this, it's fine. But if I got a heavy bag of dog food or something, I'm like, you absolutely go ahead and put that in my car for me. So
no one offers to help me at the grocery store. I'm a lot less approachable than she is.
At the time of the accident, I was working in a daycare, so I have a lot of experience working with kids, and that was one of the things I was kind of missing. And my brother and sister-in-law were nice enough to loan me their file 3 days a week. So that, I think that was as good for me as it was for him to, have something to do that was similar to my routine from before. And it's been great for the kids to be able to spend time together.
My hair's long. My hair is the longest that it's been in my entire life. I haven't gotten a haircut since the wedding, since the last time I saw you guys. And kind of dig it.
And now that he's not in the Army, he's got all these new freedoms. He decided neck tattoos are the next thing on the list.
I'm going to get my whole face tattooed. No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. But I'm going to get a neck tattoo because that's classy.
We both still have our GoFundMe accounts open. Honestly, the GoFundMe account is truly what's gotten us through this last year, especially with disability not kicking in until this month. We did not get a big payout or settlement or anything from this. So all of the money that's kept us afloat the last year, aside from his VA salary, has been the GoFundMe that people have donated. And we're really grateful that's kept us afloat. And there's, like we said with home ownership, there's always new things coming up, especially being a wheelchair user. Fortunately, learning to drive these wheelchairs indoors has taken a toll on our walls. So there's always little repairs needing to be done as well. But yeah, we're really grateful for everybody who donated. Even if it was just a little bit, you don't realize how much that has helped us out.
The GoFundMe and my VA disability has been kind of the biggest pots of money that we've been able to use to keep us, head above water. Whenever she says that she did not get a big payout after she got her disability approved, a lot of times you'll get back pay for something like that. But unfortunately, over 50% of her back pay went to her attorneys to pay for her to get the disability. So she really did not get a very substantial back pay payout for disability. My VA disability has been hit because I was in the Army and I was receiving disability at the same time, so you can't double dip in that instance. And I had like $18,000 in debt that I owed to the government for my disability and stuff. And if you have an extenuating circumstance, such as getting your leg ripped off, they will waive that fee. And I did a full write-up and everything like that, requesting that they waive the fee. They did not. So my VA disability got reduced about $600 a month. And that kind of sucked. But most of the things that the government does kind of sucks.
So we went from, having that regular income to that being docked a little bit to then gaining the expense of a house and everything that comes with that. And like I said, disability has just kicked in. So we're hoping that we start to level out again, but there's always something.